我宣布，中国将裁减军队员额30万。
This is the fourth unilateral cut of its military forces made by China since it launched economic reform in 1979. Dedicated to peace, development, and win-win cooperation, China has always pursued a defense policy that is defensive in nature and has cut the size of its armed forces from 4 million to 2 million personnel. This demonstrates to the world China's abiding commitment to pursuing peaceful development. This year marks the 89th anniversary of the founding of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, PLA, and the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Long March. 82 years ago, this 80,000-member army, enduring untold suffering and with a loss of over 50,000 soldiers, succeeded in completing the arduous Long March of over 12,500 kilometers in 2 years. The northward Long March, which was made to resist Japanese fascist aggression and liberate the Chinese nation, for the first time focused global attention on this army. In that great war of national liberation, this army, fighting hand in hand with other anti-Japanese forces in China in the main Eastern Theater during the global anti-fascist war, tied down over 70% of the Japanese army and eliminated over 1.5 million Japanese troops, thus providing much-needed support to the European and Pacific theaters. With almost no outside assistance, this army opened battlefields behind the enemy lines and liberated an area of about 1 million square kilometers and close to 100 million people, which surpassed the combined area and population of Britain and France at the time. History shows that this was a fearless and invincible army. However, the international community focuses its attention on the PLA not only because of its glorious past, but also because of what it is doing to ensure world peace. The PLA, with much international attention on it, endeavors to serve the people wholeheartedly, fulfills its mission, enforce strict discipline, deepen reform across the board, so as to uphold world peace and stability. On November 12, 2013, a decision on deepening China's defense and military reform was made by the 18th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China at its third plenary session. On November 27, 2015, the just concluded working meeting on reform held by the Central Military Commission released the goals, overall requirements, and main measures of China's military reform. On December 31st, the Army Command, the Rocket Force, and the Strategic Support Force of the PLA were established. By January 11, 2016, the restructuring of the Central Military Commission offices had been basically completed, with the former 4 headquarters turned into 15 departments of the Commission. On February 1st, 5 military theaters of the PLA were established, and 7 military regions were abolished. On April 20th, President Xi Jinping, for the first time, inspected the Joint Operations Command Center of the Central Military Commission in the capacity of Commander-in-Chief of the Joint Command of the Commission. In the course of launching unprecedented military reform, the Chinese armed forces have become increasingly open and transparent by releasing, in a timely manner, information on progress of such reform to the general public, both at home and overseas. As China deepens its economic reform and its overall national power grows, the Chinese armed forces have fulfilled more international responsibilities and obligations and contributed greatly to maintaining world peace and development. Mao Ping, head of the medical team of the 13th Chinese peacekeeping mission in Lebanon, is the first female commander sent by China on an overseas peacekeeping mission and the first female commander of the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon. With a smile and warm care, she and her colleagues provided good medical service to UNIFIL soldiers. They also conducted comprehensive medical checkup for 34 children with special needs at the South Village Orphanage in Hasbaya, southern Lebanon, the first time they ever had such medical checkups. The caring service of Mao Ping and her colleagues built a strong bond of friendship with the local people. UNIFIL Commander Luciano Portolano extolled her as a great cultural ambassador of China. On December 16, 2015, in the Chinese military camp in Juba, South Sudan, Wang Zhen, commander of the 1st Chinese Infantry Battalion carrying out the UN peacekeeping mission, handed over the battalion flag to Wang Yuan, commander of the 2nd Peacekeeping Infantry Battalion, after completing an 8-month peacekeeping mission. In 8 months, Wang Zhen and his colleagues had completed 4,257 tasks, including armed patrol to protect civilians in Juba, sentry duty around the headquarters of the United Nations mission in South Sudan, riot control and sentry duty at refugee camps, long-distance patrol and armed escort. Wang Zhen and other Chinese peacekeepers were dispatched on these missions 86,631 times, used weapons 75,550 times, vehicles 11,525 times, covering a total distance of 214,000 kilometers. Today, 2,880 Chinese peacekeepers like Mao Ping and Wang Zhen are carrying out UN peacekeeping missions around the world. Over the past 26 years, 31,000 Chinese military personnel have participated in 24 UN peacekeeping operations, and 11 Chinese soldiers have given their lives in the line of duty. On May 31st, 2016, when this video was still being made, one more Chinese serviceman, Sergeant First Class Shen Liangliang, a Chinese peacekeeper stationed in Mali, lost his life on the sentry post. The terrorist attack that took his life also wounded 7 other Chinese peacekeepers and damaged a large number of equipment. Every minute, every hour, and every day, men and women in the Chinese military, like Shen Liangliang and others who have laid down their lives or got wounded in action, endeavor to safeguard world peace with their blood and loyalty. By now, among the permanent member states of the UN Security Council, China has contributed the largest number of troops to UN peacekeeping missions and the 2nd largest share to the UN peacekeeping budget. On February 12, 2016, while people in China were celebrating the traditional Spring Festival, the crew of Taihu, a vessel of the 22nd Chinese Naval Escort Fleet, were carrying out an escort mission in the Gulf of Aden for Danya, a Saudi merchant ship, Noel, a chemical tanker, Sarah Jonas, a Liberian merchant ship, and Azalea, a Panamanian merchant ship. On February 14th, Taihu received farewell radio messages from the 4 merchant ships. Thanks to the Chinese Navy for escorting us during the Spring Festival. We thank the Chinese Navy for your hard work and hope to see you again when we return to the Gulf of Aden. As these messages of gratitude reached Taihu, it had embarked on a new escort mission. On April 7th, the 23rd Escort Fleet of the Chinese Navy, which consisted of missile frigates Shantan, Zhoushan, and supply ship Chaohu, departed for the Gulf of Aden and waters off Somalia to replace Taihu. By May 16, 2016, the Chinese Navy has sent 23 escort fleets to the Gulf of Aden and waters off Somalia without interval and completed escort missions for 6,163 Chinese and foreign vessels in 931 groups. During this period, the Chinese Navy has also conducted emergency missions, such as the evacuation of Chinese nationals in Libya, escort of transport vessels carrying Syrian chemical weapons in the Mediterranean, and evacuation of Chinese and foreign nationals in Yemen. While fulfilling their mission and obligations, the Chinese armed forces have built ties of friendship with other countries. Chinese military groups have visited Indonesia, Australia, South Africa, Cameroon, Denmark, Brazil, and other countries, conveying the goodwill of the Chinese people to the local people. On January 11, 2016, the Office for International Military Cooperation of the Ministry of National Defense of China was inaugurated, which demonstrates the Chinese Armed Forces' sincere desire to expand foreign exchanges and cooperation and uphold global peace and stability.